Hey, this is Jim at Broadfield. Thanks for joining us for another Broadfield Liquid Lunch and Learn every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Little bit of a different show for you today. One of the things that we're doing from our Broadfield studios here in New York is airing a special virtual event at the pace of about once a quarter. Some of our dealers might have been familiar with the NDI November event that we did, you guessed it, in November. But now, this month, we did a House of Worship event called Worship Stream TV. Our goal is to educate the House of Worship vertical on some of the great products available from the Broadfield line card. This is a lead gen tool with leads available for our dealers that are servicing these marketplaces. You can reach out to your Broadfield sales team at 800-634-5178, and we'd be happy to share any of these leads in your area. When we do these virtual events, we want to work with you. If you have an interesting case study in House of Worship, education, broadcast studios, or sports production, reach out to me directly at jim@broadfield.com or reach out to your Broadfield sales team and we'll make sure we work with you. We realize that you're out there installing these major projects. A lot of our integrators don't have a marketing team to speak of. I'm volunteering to be the extension of your resources. We can bring you in virtually into our studio, share photos from your install, and promote your company as we have for other dealers in the past. We can also set up connections with our manufacturing reps. If you had an install that was a VizRT TriCaster system, let's work and get that posted on VizRT's website. It's a great branding vehicle for your company, and it's a great way to say, hey, this is what I do all day. This is what I do for a living. One of the things we did this year with Worship Stream TV is invite some of our manufacturers on to share some of the challenges and solutions that they've been running into in the industry. We had James Liu from Canon, their worship workflow specialist, join us to talk about some of the great stuff that Canon has been used for in the vertical. That footage was so good, we wanted to share that with you as part of our liquid lunch today. So let's roll that tape. Hey, I'm Jim Bass with Worship Stream TV, and one of the things that we wanted to do throughout our presentations this week is share with you some of the key insights from experts in the industry that are working with houses of worship all over the country, day in and day out. And that's why I invited James Liu from Canon to join us today to talk about some of the challenges that he's been talking to churches about and how Canon is helping to answer those challenges and help them along the way with all of their live production needs. Hey, James, how are you?
Hey Jim, what's going on?
Do me a favor, let's please take an opportunity to introduce yourself to our audience today.
Yeah, what's going on, everyone? My name is James. I am the House of Worship account manager here at Canon. I'm dedicated to the church market. Some of the things that I do is demoing with the churches on any of our solutions, and including PTZs, mirrorless cameras, to cinema cameras, and other lenses options that we offer. Here you can see one of the cameras that we actually loan out to some of our people. My role really is to help the audience find the solutions more than trying to sell you on something.
And that's a great thing to really point out because a lot of people think of a large name brand like Canon and they're not familiar with some of the great individual resources available. So in the House of Worship market, James is an account manager who can come in, help you spec out a system, demo the right equipment, and lead you the path to get to that production system that's going to set you up with your community for the ultimate success. So James, thank you for doing that. It really is a valuable resource. So
Absolutely.
what are some of the biggest challenges, some of the biggest questions that you're being asked by churches today when you walk in and you start the conversation?
Yeah, so the most common trend in the last 3 years really in this market is how do we bring cinematic live into the house of worship space? we have seen a lot of broadcast vibe in the live broadcast for many, many years. And I believe that actually came from the sports world, where a lot of sports DPs and sports content creators and producers come over to churches, and that brought over a broadcast feel and system infrastructure into the churches. But now a lot of Hollywood and a lot of film producers, a lot of DPs in the film space are bringing that into the churches as well to create more cinematic production, and that includes like what are we spending? Like what are we looking at to spend for a whole package of cinematic life? What are some equipments that we really need to achieve that? And some lensing option that really is like which lenses are right for it, and what are some techniques that the operators can use to achieve that look.
Absolutely. And I'll say that we've seen some of that same questions come in
Hmm.
from houses of worship. They're being faced quite a bit with some of the biggest challenges in the industry, specific lighting situations that
Hmm.
are only seen in different churches throughout the country. Cinematic quality, giving you the depth of field to really bring you in as part of the audience. In some
Hmm.
cases, the churches that went streaming live threw up a PTZ camera and expected that to be the end all be all for the solution to reach their audience remotely outside of the building. But now they're finding out that there is a need for higher production quality,
Hmm.
for that cinematic lens look, for creating the production
Depth of
almost
field.
akin to like a theater space, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And I think, that's one of the things that really sets up Canon in this conversation
Yeah.
is that you guys have a lot of products that answer the needs along the way and across some of these different categories. Can you speak a little bit about the product line and where they would fit in different parts of the church?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Canon is a very unique brand in the sense of we provide many, many solutions at very different budget. Going from the camcorders at the bottom end, where it's very simple for your operators to learn and to kind of get their feet wet into that controlling the camera, operating camera, zooming in and out. The cameras are XX605 and XA65. Both of those products are one-stop shop basically, where you have the zoom built into the lens, and then you also have a monitor on it and got ND filters built into it as well. And the XS605 can actually be controlled through XC protocol. So all your operator has to really worry about is pointing the camera at the right subject. It's a great entry point for a lot of younger audience and younger volunteers to kind of start serving in the church. Stepping a little bit above that is the PTZ line, where we have four models of PTZ. Now, that's very popular with churches because some churches struggle with looking for volunteers consistently every single Sunday. And that's something that the PTZ really helps is that you can have multiple PTZ around the sanctuary and control everything from one controller called the RCIP 100 and 1000. Those can control multiple cameras. You can shade them, you can zoom in and out on them, and it really gives you the depth of field that you can never get before with PTZs. The common issue with PTZ is that it looks flat. It doesn't give you that blur background. While the N500 provides a stellar depth of field and separation between your subject and the background. Now, if you step up a little bit, we of course have our mirrorless cameras and also our cinema cameras. I have churches that are using the C300 Mark III bodies on their tripod with a big lens like a 25 to 250, 50 to 1000. Those are able to reach around like 90 feet in your sanctuary. And on their handheld work, they got people using the R5C and they got people using the C70. Those are all both very, very good compact cameras, which is what I have over here. This is a fully built out handheld rig that allows you to kind of zoom in and out straight from this. And the camera body has a built-in monitor that helps you see exactly what you're seeing. Of course, you don't need the rail on the bottom, but this is a fully built out handheld rig that you're able to operate really without any support or any system like that. So we really got a different budget and different solution for all types of churches.
And James, what I like too is that these different solutions can kind of be mixed and matched for right
Hmm.
applications, even within a single production. So if I have a young volunteer that's willing to run around
Hmm.
the community center with a handheld camcorder
Hmm.
like the XA65 versus having the PTZ cameras pre-installed in my second sermon room or whatever the overflow room is, and then going all the way to the cinema camera on the main stage, getting the
Hmm.
main preacher on a Sunday morning when that production level wants to be at the highest quality. You can do all of that with these different solutions throughout
Hmm.
the Canon product line.
Yeah, absolutely. We can control a lot of our cameras through what's called XC protocol. So it's an ecosystem that allows all of your products to be shaded from the unit. You can adjust your exposure straight from that unit. And it's really Canon color science has been known to be really, really, really good. And it matches really well across the board. And what we try to do is match a lot of our sensors between products to really help people get a consistent look throughout.
And I think that's an important thing to note too, because that is
Hmm.
something that you run into as you start adding multiple cameras and multiple
Hmm.
types of cameras in an
Correct.
install. You ultimately want them to be able to be switched together and to
Hmm.
be viewed as your audience the same way your audience eyes would view them,
Yep.
and where there wouldn't be a variation going from one
Correct.
point of view to another or looking in on the choir that's hanging out in the back. You want it to have the same look and feel as the other cameras, getting that
Hmm.
same action from the production of the church. So, James, what I
Spot on.
wanted to do is I know we posted a landing page that Canon
Hmm.
has available for House of Worship where you share a bunch of different case studies. And I imagine some of these are projects that you yourself have worked on, right?
That's correct. Yep.
That's awesome. So, can you share a little bit more about some of them? I know I was really interested in that Salvation Army in Hollywood. Can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Yeah, so the Salvation Army is a Hollywood church. That was really something that I kind of took on halfway through my time here. They're running a lot of Canon cinema cameras and also using third-party controllers to really shade those cameras. What they really love about those was that they have a combination of cinema camera and PTZs where those cameras can flawlessly match because you can put a LUT on it. I think that's something a lot of PTZs are missing is that your capability of matching it with cinema cameras. 3D LUTs allow you to make a consistent look, and as they cut between each shot, it really allows them to do movements and pull out on certain angles or push in on a tight shot where you would really need an expensive solution to do. And they were able to do that with PTZs as their push and shot, and then having handheld cameras to kind of match that. It's really an incredible solution.
That's great. And then another case study right here in our backyard in New York is the Times Square Church.
Yeah, so I have yet to really see their newest setup. But I know that they're running the 50 to 1000 and the C300 Mark IIIs, and they're actually using C300 Mark IIIs as the handheld as well. It is a bigger setup, but it provides them with the extra functionality to shade those cameras with a Ethernet adapter built into the camera.
That's great. Well, when they have their production all up and running and you make a trip into New York to come check that out, we'll have to make sure you stop by our offices here on Long Island
Absolutely.
as well.
Absolutely.
So, James, one of the things that we see, and then we alluded to already, is a lot of churches are looking for more of this hybrid environment where they're
Hmm.
combining PTZ cameras, maybe PTZ
Correct.
cameras that they invested in even during the pandemic because it was quick and easy to set up and
Hmm.
you didn't need individual camera operators.
Hmm.
Now that the church is back up and running full speed, the volunteer resources are there, people are in and available to help with the production. They want
Yeah.
the handheld cameras and they want the handheld cameras used in those same environments.
Yeah.
This is where we start telling the story of the Canon color science and that shading where you can get these cameras to really look like they're shooting from that same lens, right?
Absolutely. So a lot of these cameras, now that we're out of the pandemic and people are moving into higher production levels, they're being moved to kind of like that 45 degrees angle where they can really zoom in for a tight shot. A lot of cases, they are actually moving these PTZs into kind of like the children worship centers. So they can actually have content produced from that area. Or in other cases, they're moving these cameras to locations like their satellite campuses
Yep.
where they can actually have content recorded across all of their campuses, where they don't really have a volunteer or a tech team on site at those satellite location. So our PTZ really allows you to kind of reuse them in different environment or integrate it into your current or upgraded systems because of the color science and like I said, the 3D LUTs really opens up a lot of flexibility. And also through Ethernet port, we like I said, XE protocol control everything. So you can have a really experienced shader to really like match all the colors live.
And I think you really alluded on a great thing there too. If you made the investment already in
Hmm.
cameras for your church environment, there is absolutely no reason ever to take the camera out of commission. Upgrade the camera, get what you need today to handle your production
Hmm.
today. But let's talk about what you can do with the existing cameras to add multiple
Hmm.
angles, multiple
Hmm.
rooms, or even to broadcast, as James described, from the kids' sermon center or the community center, maybe even an athletics program within the building. You
Right.
can always find a way to create more content. And we
Hmm.
know that the more content you create, the more people you can reach, whether
Hmm.
it's in the church community itself or in the local community or even a
Absolutely.
more larger remote community, which is kind of what all this world of streaming has done for a lot of churches everywhere in the country.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. I think it's very important right now to have a consistent content between your live and your offline on social media because I think that branding is key for churches in the modern age. A lot of people want to see consistent content. They want to see photography to shoot a certain way. They want to see your live to have a certain vibe. And from a lot of data shows that a person will check out your online presence, social media, and live stream 4 to 6 times before they even step into your doors.
Right.
So it's really no longer about that coffee and that donut on a Sunday. It's about can you kind of give people the feeling of home right at their home before they actually step into your church.
And I know one of the challenges that we hear from churches all the time too is how do you continue to reach out to the younger generations? How do you
Hmm.
continue to bring the younger audience into the building? And social
Hmm.
media has really been an excellent opportunity for the
Hmm.
churches who embrace it to reach out to that segment of the population where it's not just the family saying you want to be part of this community, it's
Hmm.
them deciding for their own that this is going
Yes,
to be important for their own development. So, James,
absolutely.
the last question I have for you, and we have for all of our guests, is let's pull out the crystal ball. What do you see for the future? What do
Hmm.
you think is going to be some of the biggest considerations that the house of worship market is going to make in the multiple years to come? And how is technology going to aid in that?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I would answer this with a short term and a long term kind of thing. Short term wise, in the next 5 years, what I see is churches moving away from having static tripod shot. Those follow shots will end up being like one or two cameras out of the seven cameras that churches have. We got dactyl cameras and we got dolly cameras and handheld cameras being very popular. A lot of projects I'm working on right now actually are moving towards lenses that do not have a built-in servo. A lot of them are like, hey, we want that little shake. We want that rawness. We really want that authentic look on our live stream. And I think that's what a lot of major churches are moving into in the next 3 to 5 years as they invest in handheld cameras and smaller body cameras. Long term wise, I do think there is a potential for churches to kind of step more into that virtual reality world. We already have churches working on the XR and the VR content, but we see a lot of these headsets are coming out and becoming more popular and more regular to everyday people. there are elder people who have expressed that they cannot go to a church, but they want to feel like they're at church. Instead of really investing in like $1 million of sound system for your home, you can buy a goggle that makes you feel like you are at that space. And Canon's equipped for all of that because we do have the 5.6 5.2 millimeter fisheye, dual fisheye lens for the VR content. It goes onto your sensor and it splits the sensor in half and it gives you two images that are at 4K. So that really helps with VR content creation. And I already have a few churches that are experimenting with that for the future.
Yeah, and I can see how many churches would be interested in that VR content creation.
Hmm.
Imagine taking a virtual trip to the Holy Land at any
Yeah,
point in history,
yeah.
and really just taking some of these
Hmm.
lessons and sermons and adding that visual element to it
Hmm.
is going to be another one of those things that becomes truly engaging in the future.
Hmm.
James, thank
Absolutely.
you so much for joining us today.
Mhm.
As I mentioned at the top of the show, I really appreciate James from Canon joining us to talk about some of the things he's seeing in House of Worship. And I want to let you know that we're working very closely with Canon now to expand the product line and offerings here at Broadfield Distributing. You know, Broadfield is your source for all Canon Pro PTZ cameras. We're also added their professional camcorders, the XA60, XA65, 70, 75, and the XF605, their handheld camcorder, the flagship model in their camcorder line. We're also working with them and talking to them about the R5C cinema camera and or mirrorless camera, I should say, and a lot more. So if you're interested in any of the Canon products that James talked about, if you have a House of Worship opportunity, let's put you in touch with James directly. He is a really invaluable resource in helping to make sure that we get that project quoted correctly and get as much of that information as possible. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me directly, jim@broadfield.com, 800-634-5178, or reach out to your Broadfield sales team. We can help get you over to the right person and help you work on your next Canon project. Thanks for joining us. Tune in every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time and join us on our future virtual events for education, broadcast, sports production, and more. Tune in next week. Until then, cheers.
Broadfield Distributing is a value-added distributor of live production, streaming, video editing, and storage products. We only sell to resellers. We are always looking for new dealers. So call us at 1-800-634-5178 or email sales@broadfield.com. You'll like doing business with Broadfield because we make it easy to do business.